Thank you. Welcome to the second part. I'm Michal. I work in Trezor, and I want to talk about FBT. So I work in Trezor. Sorry for the quality of the projector. Hopefully, at least see something. So Trezor builds the world's best hardware wallet for your crypto coins, and we sell it worldwide. Our users are all around the world. It's a little bit pity that our website is only in English. So we currently have a plan to translate it, and my talk is going to be about, not about something we already use on production, but about something I plan to use on production soon. Because my task is basically figure it out how to translate our website into different languages. So this is our website, and let's say, let's start somewhere with the translation. Let's translate this call to action button. And let's start with really like a naive approach how a translation could be implemented. Maybe I wanted to ask, is there anyone who already using FBT or at least heard about FBT? So this is a really good topic, I guess, because you can learn something. So
you are the expert.
Yeah, now I know like 2% about it, so I'm the expert already. And yeah, so back to the call to action button. So how could we implement the naive implementation? Let's say we use Next.js, so we have some app.ts, and there we would like to init the translation with a dictionary. And the dictionary is basically key value structure where we have the strings. Let's use the English sentences or the phrases we have on the website, and let's provide the Czech translation for it. That's the like naive version of the dictionary, and use the dictionary on a button itself. So there would be some T function that somehow magically gets through internals to the dictionary we initialized in the app.ts, and that way we wrap the English sentence with the T function. It finds the translation, and we have a call to action button in Czech language solved, and we are happy. But the next step is going to be, let's translate this thing, something that is split in some dynamic part and the static sentence, static string. So it would look something like that. The years are coming from some very sophisticated function. It gives the number, and we want to translate the years in crypto with the same approach. And how would the dictionary, giving my best copyright skills here, so I would come up with something like that. And if we deploy something, the translation of this quality, I'm afraid the next day morning stand-up would look like this. And everyone like maybe was in this position. So what are the problems we are facing with translations? We struggle with creating of the dictionary keys. We are struggling with the translation context, because we basically have to understand where the sentence is being used when we are translating something dynamic. And we want to have these dynamic texts grammatically correct, which is not very easy. It's, to be honest, it's very hard. So here comes the FBT, and we can immediately jump into the showcase what the FBT is bringing here. So we import the default thing, the FBT, and we use it this way. I hope it's readable. So if you know React and JS6, you see that we are basically wrapping the text not in a function, but in the markup. And we have some description as a parameter for the FBT, which is, I'll get later to that, which is very useful because it provides the context and it forces you to provide the context. So if we use FBT like the JSX syntax, that's one way. And it's also possible to use it the functional way, like the T approach. But again, the context is a required parameter for that function. So that's the benefit the FBT is bringing to the very simple way of usage. And yeah, this is the FBT being called. And how does it work with the dynamic part? It could look a little bit complicated, but bear with me. It looks like this, and if we go line by line, this is something we already know. So with the FBT JSX approach, we can wrap even structure, not just a simple string. We can wrap multiple other tags, and we have some dedicated tags for marking the semantics. So here we know that we want to use something for plurals, and FBT gives us this special tag with couple of properties we can specify. And from our point of view as copywriters/developers, we only have to provide the sentence in a singular, and the FBT will take care of the rest. So the FBT brings here a very good practice that the translation is a cooperation of a developer and translators. Developers have their demands, and translators have different demands, but both of these are using their own tools, and together they can deliver a handy translation. So what the developers like, or what are the benefits for developers here? You get the dictionary keys created automatically. You don't have to manually build some dictionary. You got tags for marking the dynamic sentences, and you got a lot of extracted metadata, and I will get to this later. And what is FBT offering for translators? That's the context. That's what the desk description property in the FBT tag was for. And they get support for localization management tools that the translators are used to work with. So how actually looks like the translation cycle? So you have the React application. There comes the FBT tool, because FBT is not only these JSX and tags and functions. There are also scripts, and these scripts are actually Babel plugins that lets you go through your source code and extract the marked down texts into so-called source strings. And these source strings are it's just a JSON, pretty complicated JSON, but it's a JSON. So you can upload it or edit it manually in your favorite tool. Very common example is Crowdin. And from the Crowdin or any other translation management tool, you download the translations, because in Crowdin, that's the playground for translators. And you receive raw dictionaries, and then comes another script by FBT that processes these dictionaries into, let's say, production optimized dictionaries. And these optimized dictionaries are something you commit in your source code, can deploy, and your translations start working. I prepared a demo, so I hope it will be visible on this projector. And it's a simple application where I want to show you in like a real usage. So let's say this is the parameter, and I can write something like whatever item I have, and it will immediately start working. Yeah, and the magic happens here, of course. I can translate it into Espanol or Czech, and that's it. So back to the English. But it also has support for name parameters and pronouns. So if I, for example, change the name to Jane, and I have information that it's a female, I just changed the email, and FBT takes care of the pronoun. And of course, it will work in Czech translation. So, and in Espanol. Huh? Yeah, Jane is given parameter. Is Yolanda maybe something like that. The Jane was not supposed to be translated. It's a parameter. And with plurales, and back to English, of course in English it's a simple way. You either have no item, one item, or multiple items. And the FBT has a support for that. But in Czech, we have actually 4 different versions. We have 1, few, many, and 0. And FBT supports that by default. So you can do whatever crazy you want to do. On every page in this demo, it's open source on a GitHub, so you can take a look how is it implemented. Probably not very readable here, but use it as a I can try. Yeah, a little bit better. So there you can see that this is the way. You have to with the 0, I did it in a code, but the rest of the plurals are handled by the FBT here. And the same happens with the parameters. So you can take a look on the real code if you want to play with it. Because yeah, here is these pronouns. So you can see there is some FBT name and FBT pronoun as a dedicated text for this semantics you have to add into the sentence. So FBT can help you with the translations. And since we are digging the source code, let's take a look into the dictionaries, because where the fuck? As I have it zoom, so let's check these are the source strings that generated by the FBT. So you can see when I was talking about the metadata, for example, because many times with the translations and like manually build it dictionary, you can be wondering where the hell is this string being used. But with FBT, you always have the exact location, even with the line coordinates, everything. So you can build some automation around that, or at least navigate manually when you are wondering what's going on here. And when also worth to see how the processed stuff looks like, because the power of FBT is that when, for example, we have this way, right? Yeah. Customer name, this is the parameter, and you can see that it generates you all the possible combinations when you use the FBT param tag. So that way the translators don't forget about to translate something, and your task as a developer is just to use these semantics tags to decorate the strings you want to translate. And that way, the FBT helps you with the hard problem, how to deliver a grammatically correct dynamic sentence translations. So this is the source code. So it's here on the GitHub. And yeah, I also wanted to show you the way how it works with the crowd-in. So it's open source, not only the source code of the demo application, but the translations itself. So if you log in or sign up to the crowd-in, you can contribute with I don't know, correcting the translations or even providing new languages. And that way we can extend the functionality. And this is how it looks like from the administrator point of view. So let's check the Czech language. These are the source strings. And if I want to translate it, that's the, like, is it, oh, maybe a little bit better. So that's the crowd-in, that's where the translators are showing their skills. And it's like GitHub for developers, crowd-in is for translators. So when they, for example, common case with translation is you change a little bit the copy on the web, the sentence changed, and the translation is lost. And that's where the crowd-in helps, because it can check that the text, for example, appeared in the same file, the new one, and you had a previous version, so it can suggest maybe you can use this one and just the previous translation and just a little bit correct the translation. And another very useful thing is when you are working with these parameters. This customer is waiting for their package. It again gives you some structure, input and output with even some playground, so you can try that your translation works well. And your task as a developer, when the translators gives you info that they are ready, you just go in the crowd into translations, you ask to build and download. You can, of course, do it through API as another NPM package, NPM script, and download it automatically to your project and incorporate the translations automatically. Handy thing about the demo application is also help developers with using FBT, because FBT was developed in Facebook and open source a couple of years ago. But to be honest, the community around it and the way to start with it is not easy. So you can use the README here to deal with errors I was dealing, and maybe start with the FBT much more efficiently. So like how to even install it, because they have alt peer dependencies, so you have to override it and use a new version of React. And the Babel setup has some tricks, because in a TypeScript, the FBT import is being removed, and you have to tweak the Babel config to keep it there with something like this. And even the NPM scripts I'm using, you can just copy them from the package.json. So that's something to help you with if you want to try the FBT. Use this QR code if you don't remember it's not that readable if you don't remember the URL. I hope the QR code works, at least. And that's it. Thank you.
And now is the time for...
Yeah, time for questions.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Do you have a sense of what the quality is of the translations that are open source on platforms like Cloudin? Is it like pretty good? Do you have a sense of like like a human translator needs to go back in and something higher?
I don't. Like for the Spanish version I'm using here, it's completely done through the suggested translation on Crowdin. I asked my friend in Mexico to take a look on it, and he was kind of thumbs up.
Yeah.
So it's usable, and the benefit is it doesn't have to be perfect on the first run, but it can be improved basically very efficiently later. For you, it would be just find a better translator, give him access to Crowdin, let him translate what's wrong, and then you just download the translation and everything else is automatic.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, even for your use case, you can see like if you have more traction in the Spanish market, then we can invest more energy into it.
Exactly, and adding new language should be trivial. It shouldn't increase the complexity. It should be linear.
Yeah. And does that have a lot of other languages? I mean, you should check in Spanish, but I assume it must have.
That's a question for the Crowdin has like maybe all the languages, and support in FBT is even for Hebrew and right to left, left to right, top down, whatever language there is. Maybe Klingon language is supported.
By the way, as you mentioned before, Czech translation is sometimes different in terms of how many different forms you have compared to English. How actually works that end-to-end translation when you have only like 2 versions in English and 3 versions in Czech?
The FBT generates you all the metadata and so-called tokens, and then the Crowdin knows when you are taking the source strings into and one translate to Czech that it should gives you the example I was showing, that there could be like 3 different
Works automatically somehow.
It's not that magic. If you are into languages, you know the rules. But for you as a developer, you don't have to think about it. You just use these FBT tags. And for translators, it's good that all the combinations are pre-generated, and they don't have to worry that they would miss some combination. So in that, like, it's a joint effort of developers and translators. But if it really gives you peace of mind that you won't be losing some important details when you come out. For example, Russian language has another bunch of rules. And for you, if you have the strings in English decorated with all these semantics, you will receive all the combinations needed. So that way you can scale your localization of your website. Yeah, because if you would do it manually, doing all the dictionaries, you would bleed on that. If you start fighting with dynamic text, you can guarantee you didn't forget about something. And that's really the benefit of such a robust tool as the FBT. You know, the FBT was developed by Facebook, and Facebook is localized to tens of...
They don't support the latest version and you need to use resolutions actually and those things.
I wouldn't be surprised if the guy who was like the main person behind that, he could be fired, for example. There was a lot of layoffs in Facebook, who knows. But it's open source, it's usable, you can fork it and fix it. That's the way of open source. I'm really grateful that they gave it out. And it's definitely usable, and my plan is to start working on it in Trezor in following weeks. So we will use it on production, and I can have another talk later how miserably we failed with it.